Here we are, y'all. That is one sexy looking motherfucker. We got a slightly different setup, create a little bit more ambiance here. So let's see. Today we are on lesson 10. It's been a journey, y'all. I took last week completely off. I like to schedule these times where I call it fasting, even though it's not always a food from, or a fast from food. Although a lot of times it does include that. But for me, it's more of just an overall fast of structure. So if you've been following along, I'm sure I've mentioned that the way that we are building this structure also includes times where you intentionally pull yourself out of the structure so that you can see things objectively. Because what tends to happen, which I think it is just what do they call it, entropy? Not quite sure. That could be a term for that. But basically what tends to happen is as you kind of continue your routines, continue your habits, and you just keep, continuing with the flow of life, you inevitably also accumulate just baggage ultimately, whether that's baggage of thoughts and belief patterns, baggage of emotionally charged energy that you maybe haven't been giving yourself the space to navigate and work through and process, an accumulation of toxins in the body from continual stress, and or from just your nutrition and the food that you're eating. And also an accumulation of habits and, things that maybe served you at one point, but maybe aren't serving you any longer. And so either way, taking this space to reflect on all of that and really just kind of move into the void, as I like to call it, where I purposefully clear everything out of my schedule. No meetings, no nothing, literally just nothing. And a lot of times, like I said, I will do an actual fast from food for any number of days. This past week, I ended up fasting for 3 days just to, obviously the physical aspect of that, of just giving my system a break, giving my digestive system a break, giving my organs a break, just clearing out the system. But also even the whole energy surrounding food, of the shopping, the prepping, the cooking, the decisions, the time involved in all of those things, having a break from that as well. And honestly, bro, I eat a lot of fucking food, and so and I spend a decent amount of money on food, and so even having that fast sometimes, it's I stop eating for 3 days and I'm saving $100 easy, so that's also helpful at times, just fuck it. For me, and this is a little bit of a side note, but related, for me, just knowing that if I need to call upon this aspect of myself, that I don't fucking need anything, bro. And I know that may sound, but saying that in a way that is also being mindful of the fact that I don't need anything because I need everything, because I am myself, because I am all of it. But just maybe from that masculine perspective of bro, if there's no food, fuck them. I ain't got a bed, fuck them. I ain't got, hot running water, fuck them. it's just like, I don't know, for me, and there's just that element of freedom that I value so highly, of just showing myself at times, kind of that warrior aspect too, but just showing myself at times like I'm good. It was crazy too, because I did the fast, and I've done it enough times to kind of notice patterns. On the first day, is usually when I'm like the most hungry, where I'm like kind of my energy super low. And so I ended up this one on Monday, which was the first full day of the fast. I kind of planned to just rest most of the day. And that's honestly what I did. I took a bunch of naps. I laid down for a while. I just rested. And then the second day, which was Tuesday, it was like everything just flipped and my energy was on fire, man. And that's usually what tends to happen for me. Like, it takes a day for my body to realize, like, all right, we're not relying on this consistent food source, this, quote unquote external energy source. And so then my body's like, all right, well, then we need to use the energy that's here. There's a fucking abundance. That's the whole thing. There's an abundance of energy. There's an abundance of everything that you could possibly need. There is an abundance right here, right now, in this moment. And it's one thing to say that, but when you really can fucking embody that and just have that deeper sense of knowing that, yes, that is the fucking truth that I'm choosing to live into. That's, I don't know, bro. That's fucking power right there. That's fucking powerful. And again, it's not like a right, wrong, good or bad, like fuck you if you don't kind of thing. It's just like you realizing that you get to choose what you believe in, what you choose to take on and embody. There may be some aspects of that necessarily on the surface you maybe didn't choose, like your who your parents were, your upbringing, and things like that, like obviously the fucking weather. But at a deeper level, because it took me a while to understand this, but I feel like I kind of grasp it now. Reality is reality. Like, what is what is. Okay? And our perception of what we choose to, see, believe, consider, conceptualize, think about, imagine about what is, about reality, all caps, that is what shapes our reality, the reality that we experience. So, truth is absolute. But the paradox is that as soon as you think you know, as soon as you think you know the truth, and just in that statement alone, there's a contradiction. Because who are you? And if you are you, and there's other yous, there's other ideas, there's other possibilities, and you have identified with one of those possibilities, even the possibility that there are infinite possibilities. Just those words are conditions. And that's, I guess can lead down a long rabbit hole. But there's an underlying fabric of reality, and then your perception of just that underlying, which again, even just trying to talk about it, we are only talking about around. We are only talking around it, because the only way to face it directly is just through the direct experience and awareness of what already is, which is, because it's what already is, it's what you've been the whole time, what you've always been. That's why they say, and I repeat, what you are looking for is what's looking. Okay? So, yes, it's just some sharings, some revelations, some reflections from this past week, and the whole idea of being able to remove yourself from that structure so that you can see the structure, so that you can see, where can things be improved upon here, as I'm going into this new phase, this new chapter, what changes need to be made, what needs to be updated. And also, there's a kind of easy way to think about it is stop, start, continue. So once you can kind of see the whole system from the outside, because, you're intentionally taking the space away from it and kind of, putting yourself into that void of just nothingness, nothing to do, no one to talk to, nothing to see. And another little note on that, depending on the season, because how I've kind of began to implement things is every season, every quarter is when I'll have like some kind of break like this to various, degrees. And sometimes it's more active and sometimes it's more passive, as you can imagine. Like usually in the winter time, it's like I've done this where I've fasted from literally everything, like no water, no food, no books, no talking, no nothing, like literally just nothing, fucking nothing, and just sat there, and that was what I felt like I needed in that moment. But then in more summertime, it's more like, no, let's go camping, like let's go out and do shit, let's stay up late, let's eat all the fucking food. So that whole concept of, even within the breaks themselves, within the kind of the void, the whole point is, you're allowing what is naturally arising to arise. And what I think that teaches you ultimately is, at least this is what it's taught me, is that from the nothingness, everything comes. So when you put yourself in those spaces of nothingness, it makes it very, very, very obvious what things are really necessary for me, what things are the non-negotiables for me that I know that I need on a daily, on a regular basis. It shows you that, but it also shows you that from the void is where your genius arises. Because when you're in that space of just clarity, of just allowing, just really just surrender, what tends to come up is what tends to be relevant in the moment, because ultimately you end up living more on a moment-to-moment basis and more just spontaneously, because there's no set structure to anything, because that's the environment that you've intentionally created. And so one of the sayings that has come through me through this process is that action necessitates itself through being. So when you're just being, which is basically just doing nothing, you're just being. When you're being, then what naturally arises is coming from that being. And so you tend to find that, and this is where you can play around with, your intention and just how you're kind of presenting your energy. But what you find is that you ultimately end up getting into things, activities, behaviors. You end up getting into what is needed in that moment, because that's the only perspective that you're coming from, is what is here in this moment. If it's like, I'm tired, I want to sit down, and then you just sit down, and you just sit down and do nothing, and then you feel rested. You're like, oh, I'm tired, I sat down. Maybe you did doze off, maybe you just sat there and looked around and just allowed whatever to come up, thoughts, or maybe it was meditation, whatever that was. But then at a certain point, just like when you exhale all of your air, there's a you can hold it out for a little bit, but then this inherently there becomes this strong, passionate desire, instinct to inhale. And the same thing the other way. If you take a big inhale, you can hold that for a certain period of time, but then the same thing happens. There becomes this strong, innate, instinctual desire to let it out. And there's the initial yin and yang, the initial nothingness begging for everythingness, and everything begging to see itself as nothingness. This back and forth interplay. And it's the same thing. You sit down, you rest. I feel rested. I get up. I go do something, whatever. And it's crazy what'll come up is like, because you'll just be contemplating, you'll think, and then like this urge will, well, at least this is how I experience this. This urge will arise, and then it's like, man, that feels like what I want to do. It's like you're literally just doing what you want to do. It's like, man, I really want to do that right now. Like, all right, go do it. And then you do it. And it's like, you're not, there's no, and that's the beauty of also just in general doing what you love to do, because that association of effort and work isn't there. And because that association isn't there, you can tap into more of the boundless, infinite energy, infinite intelligence that's already right here in this moment. And that's really what this whole thing is. Like, I keep saying that, and then I give you, a wider, different lens or a higher perspective, but it's just how it's, kind of unfolding for me. But it's really what this is it is that structure that attempts to move in harmony with the natural rhythms and flows of life, so that ultimately you can maximize your ability to just be, because you're not worried about, how's this going to happen, what's going on with that, what's going to happen tomorrow, or what could have happened differently yesterday. Because everything, it's the structure aspect of it is kind of like this pacifier to your rational, egoic mind. Because you're like, no, I got this shit in place. Like, it's good. Boom, boom, boom. Like, it's all in line. I feel really good about it. I don't have to worry about it. It's good. So then you could just be more and more and more in the present moment while being in the world and like doing shit. Because you want to do all the things. You don't want to fucking retreat up in a mountain and that's it. I mean, sometimes that's part of it. Like you gotta go on your hero's journey. But ultimately you come back. And again, you don't have to. Like that's a choice. But for me, I love being in the world. I think this is fucking fun. All these different experiences. And so I like to have that structure to be able to experience all those different experiences while at the same time just being completely in the flow of it all, because that's how I know my genius is best expressed, my creative capacity is best tapped into, which allows me to really fulfill what I feel like my purpose is in life. And so today, lesson 10, what we are going to be embarking on is we're going to put together the RPM sheets. So RPM stands for rate of, that's RPE, bitch. So RPM, this is a term I learned from Tony Robbins. What you're going to learn today is ultimately adopted from what I have learned from Tony Robbins. The framework in itself, like the core of it, is it's Tony Robbins. I have added my own additions and modifications, and I'll kind of explain a little bit to be more in line with, ultimately what works for me, but the basic principles of this whole structure. All right. So RPM in Tony's model stands for, it stands for multiple things. He has it might be in multiple formats, but I did an audio course called Time of My Life. Highly recommend it. It really, him breaking down his system is really, really helpful if you want to get a deeper understanding. The way that I'm going to be explaining it, well, I ultimately get into the weeds and everything, so I'm sure I'll get deeper into some of the aspects of it. But ultimately, it's like trying to keep it more practical and tactical, which, Tony's does that amazingly as well. But it's, helpful to having that different perspective and kind of see the original format. But yeah, that's that. And Tony, he calls it a couple things. It's like results, focused, purpose driven, massive action plan. I think that's like the most common and the most practical for what we're using it for. So I'll say that again. Results focused, purpose driven, massive action plan. And I think he also calls it rapid planning method. But yeah, I'll say it one more time. Results focused, purpose driven, massive action plan. There you go. So basically what it is, it's just cut and dry. It's a fucking scheduling system. The big difference though, or kind of the big principle though, is it forces you to focus on results versus to-dos, while still at the same time holding you accountable to the to-dos. And it helps to lay everything out so that once you establish, you take the time to kind of establish a little bit of structure and just go through. It's literally a step-by-step process. You go through the process. It's an anchor. It's a huge anchor. And because you are physically taking like thoughts and ideas and you're actively putting things onto paper, The way that I like to do it is all just pen and paper. I have binders that I use and that I put everything in, just because personally I like the physicality of it. I feel that it's more engaging for me in the process. And when you're actually writing something, that's like one more step closer to reality, to the physical manifestation of that thought or that idea, of that intention. And so you actually writing it, it's like an art, calligraphy. You actually writing it is already engaging in the process of manifestation, as well as you'll see, you end up kind of repeating yourself a lot. And so it's like a daily dose of remembering what you're doing while you're here, where you're going, and just that daily check-in, that daily accountability, that daily remembering of who the fuck you are and what the fuck you're doing. And doing it in a way, again, where it's not just this fucking endless list of things to do. It's, no, this is the specific result that I want. This is why I want it. And here are some of the action items that I think are going to help me achieve that result. But ultimately, fuck the action items. The result is what I want. And after a while, it becomes deeper than this is what I want. It becomes more of this is what I'm here to do. This is my duty. It's not my obligation. This is my chosen duty that I'm here to show up and to be present for and to engage with. Okay. So the actual breaking down of it is pretty simple. The concept of it is pretty simple. It's the consistent application is where you will find the challenge most likely, because a couple parts do seem redundant, and that is intentional. Okay. So first thing, and I don't have the sheets of paper. If you're listening to this, go and I'm going to keep plugging it. Go and do the free course. And I'll break down I'll draw this shit out for you. But I'm just going to give you the overview now. You can still use this, and the concept is the same. So first thing is you just kind of have like a morning check-in. So, maybe like start with an affirmation, something you want to remind yourself of, something you're grateful for, just some kind of like positivity, because what you focus on grows. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like positivity, but what are you choosing to intentionally focus on? Are you going to focus on the shit that's, keep focusing on what you don't like to see in your life? Because that's what you're fucking going to get more of. And you get to choose who you focus on. You get to choose what you focus on. So focus on what's going right, and you can use that same power to see more of what is going right. And then before you know it, because you're reminding yourself every day, all you can fucking see is what's going right. And it feels fucking amazing, and it just keeps compounding upon itself. And that's step one, okay? And then, step one, I write the date. The next step is you go through like a little rating process. So, how is your sleep? Time to go to bed? Time you wake up? How's your mood? How's your mental space? How's your digestion? Your physical preparedness, just a few kind of self-rating items. And then you have your capture list. So the capture list is where you just brain dump. You just dump everything, all the things that are in my head that I got to do, people I got to see, anything and everything. Like all your to-do list, this is the capture list. Just put it on the to-do list. Hold up, I got to restart this. 1 second. There it is. So yeah, you got your to-do list. And that's the first step, really the first main step, because when shit's left in your head, you're dead. Meaning when it's in your head, and you're just thinking about it, it ends up just swirling because you don't want to forget it. So it just swirls around, and like 4 things feels like 400 things because you just keep going around and around and around and the same shit over and over and over again. When you write it down, then it's like, okay, this is somewhere. I can leave it alone. I can forget about it. It's somewhere. Okay. So the capture is just basically taking all that swirling and just saying, all right, bloop, here it is. Okay. Next step. There's a template that I've already made that you'll get access to in the free course. But basically, you can do this on a sheet of paper, or you don't even really have to even do it like this, but you'll see how it can be helpful. Basically you'll have, it's really 4 main columns. There's a few other ones, but they're not as important as you'll see, but they are important. So the first thing you're going to do essentially is you're going to ask yourself, what is my first main intention for today? Okay. What's the most, and you may have multiple kind of intentions or things you would like to see for the day, or it may just be one. Most, like when I first started doing this, there was like many things, but as I've done this more and more, it's just turned into one. Like I have the same main intention for my day most of the time, which is trust the flow of surrender. And it's just like, when I ask myself that question every day, it's just lately that has what it has been. And you're just asking, there's no right or wrong here. This is like a personal exercise for you. So just asking yourself that question and just let what comes up. Sometimes it may sound silly or like, what is that? But just do it. Just roll with it. You'll be surprised what happens. So that's the first step. What's my first main intention for today? You write that down. And then to the right of that, you ask yourself, well, what is the purpose of that? Or why is that important for me? This is where you get your emotional juice. It's like, why is it important for me? Why is it important for me to trust the flow of surrender? The purpose for me of that is to be all I am. Period. Be all I am. And again, it's like a reminder, even though, yes, that is like kind of the purpose behind that. When I ask that question, it's also just this reminder of like, that's what the fuck I'm here to do. Just be all I can be. That's it. And then to the left of the intention, you ask yourself, okay, what specific result would be a representation of me realizing that intention? I'll say that again. What specific result would be a tangible representation of the realization of my intention? And so this is, for me, it changes daily because based on my intention, basically as a whole for the day, what is the one thing that if I just achieve this one thing? And the difference between the results and intention a lot of times is intangible. So it's like, be all I can be, which, that can be a beautiful intention and very powerful intention. But in you personally, like you may have a knowingness, like there may be a certain knowingness when it has been realized. And that's really the core of what we want. But in order to have something to like rationally engage with and create structures around, there needs to be some intangible aspect. And so the result is a tangible thing, something that is tangible. You can see it, you can check it off a box, like it's been done. I can witness this thing that has happened. And then, so that result for me, like for instance today, was to launch the free course. And that's like literally, if anything else happens today, that's what the fuck needs to get done. Because like for me, that's the one thing that if I just did that one thing, all the other things are that they'll either happen of their own accord, or they might even just become irrelevant because the main thing happened. And that's really, really, really important, because that's really how we're trying to get you to think through this process. It's like, all right, yeah, I might have 10 things on my to-do list, but what is the one specific main result that I'm after? Because that's really the important thing. Because a lot of times, and you'll find more and more as you go through this process, you don't need to do all the shit that you think you need to do to achieve the result that you want to achieve. And the problem is that most of the time you don't even fucking get clear on what the result is that you want. And you become enthralled, entrapped in the act of doing, thinking that the doing is the achieving. And at a deeper level it is. You know, at a certain level it is, because the journey is the way. So like the actual, you know, the act, you know, like just like me doing this is the fucking reward. The art, the creation is the gift, the blessing. And so that's really what we want to shift our focus on, because remember, what you focus on grows. If all you're focusing on is all this shit you got to do, then you're just going to get more shit to do. But if you're focusing on specific, tangible results, and you have systems in place that you are continuously improving upon to essentially automate the entire process of the result achievement process, so that you can just continue to embody the beingness of who you know you're supposed to be, to allow the work to be an extension of that being. Okay? So, intention first, purpose second, result. Always start with the intention. I didn't say anything about to-dos yet. Intention first, purpose, result. And then you write the to-dos on the left of the result column. So then you'll list out, and again, this is where if you have multiple intentions for the day, you'll kind of have multiple lists. So you'll have maybe one intention with one specific result that will have a few action items associated with that. And then you want to star, or you want to make note of the action items that are absolutely necessary. Because a lot of times there's things that aren't absolutely necessary to achieve the result. Maybe they're just things you'd like to do, or things that would be helpful, but they're not absolutely necessary. So you want to star the things that are, so you know that at the very least these need to get done if I want to realize this intention, if I want to achieve this result. And then you can note the priority of importance. And then you can note the amount of time each action item will take roughly. Just kind of a guess. Always guess up. Give yourself more time than you think you need. And as a rule of thumb, which I don't practice this well, but it's a nice ideal, give yourself twice as much time on everything to maximize the freedom to express within. Make a quote on that one. Lost them. Note how much time, and then you can leverage. So you can like write down who would be who could help me with this, or who could I leverage this off to? And, leveraging, you're still responsible for making sure the shit happens. It's still up to you to make sure the shit happens. But you can leverage the help of somebody else, either with you or for you. Okay. And that's another like huge key. Like we start thinking about, what resources do I have available? What people do I have available? Who can I ask for help and receive help? Opening myself to receive help. Okay. And then you just make a little box around that. You're supposed to, you circle the result and the intention to be like, no, this is the core thing. This is what I like. This is circled. This is the important thing. And then make a box around the whole thing. And that's called a RPM block. Okay. And like I said, you might have multiple intentions. And so you'll have an RPM block for each of those intentions for the day. All right. And then what I like to do is create like a total time. So I'll add up all the time, and then there's like a total time, which is all the time added up, and there's total must time. So remember those things that you asterisk? The total must time is like, here's the must, the things that are asterisk. Here's the time of just the must. So I know that like absolutely push comes to shove, like this is what I'm looking at. And you'll be amazed because what seemed like this huge thing is like a 4-hour day, and that's another one of the beauties of it. Okay. So that's like the main RPM. And that's the thing that people have the most challenges with, because it does take a little bit of time. I will agree. It does take a little bit of time, and it even can seem a little repetitive and monotonous and tedious. And honestly, that's kind of the fucking point, because again, you're engaging in that manifestation process. You're actively engaging in one of the, like the first physical creation of the manifestation of your intention, just through the act of writing, especially like when you repeat it and then you do it day after day after day. Okay. So then you block time and schedule your must. So then there's a little place where you kind of like a little time, the time calendar for the day from like 4 a.m. down to 11 p.m. And then you can go through and you can schedule in for the day things that, like, for me, it's what needs to happen at a specific time. And then I block those times off. So it's like, okay, because the hard thing can be is, when we're meeting other people, when we commit to other people, it's much more like punctual and like, okay, I said there, I'm going to be there at a certain time. I'm going to be there at a certain time. We're meeting this time. We're doing this, boom, boom, boom. And then we make it happen, because there's more than one person involved. But when it's just yourself, really, you got to do the same shit. You'll be like, no, this is an appointment with myself. There's no other commitments. I'm blocking everything out. Because like that's what you would do if you were having an appointment with something, especially a really important appointment. And again, these, as you're going through this process, like these core things, which we've identified, with your life types and the key processes, these are the most important things that I could possibly be doing. And so I need this. This is the shit that needs to be scheduled. These are the things that have to happen at a certain time, non-negotiable. And that's what you schedule in. That way you only schedule what you need to allow the freedom for all the other things. Even if it's an important item, but it doesn't need to happen at a specific time, don't schedule it for any time. Just leave it open. But the key is, you're solely dedicated to those key processes. Those are your babies. You're solely dedicated to those. And then you open the space up for anything else. Like because I do way more than just the 4 things that I have identified. It's just those things are like, this is top priority. If anything else happens, these are happening. Where everything else is like, okay, little side projects, little things here and there, extra study. It's all free time, which again, it's just being able to allow for whatever comes in the moment to arise. Whereas the scheduled time, it's the other way around, where it's like, no, bro, I don't give a fuck how you're feeling. This is an appointment you made with yourself. This is what your non-negotiable. Get it fucking done. I don't give a fuck. Do it. That's how you treat that. But then on the other time is like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Fuck it. Let's roll. Or, it doesn't matter. Do what you want. And that's the beauty. All right. And then at the end of your day, you'll just jot down, kind of like in the morning, there's a little self-assessment. How productive did you feel? How focused did you feel? How were your relationships, your nutrition? How's your spiritual practice? Rating yourself, making little notes if you want to. And then you ask yourself two power questions in the evening time, which one is, what were my wins? Which basically, again, is focusing on what went well today. What were my wins for the day? And then the next question, how can I be more of what I already am? Okay. I originally, it was like, how can I be better kind of thing? But it was like, no, I'm not trying to, by me trying to be better, I'm continuously pushing the best version away. There's another quote for you. Because you already are that version of yourself right here and right now. So that's why I changed it to, how can I be more of what I already am? Reminding you that you are already everything that you're supposed to be. Okay. Yeah, and then a little back page for some notes, just extra, whatever. So that's it, y'all. Like I thought this was going to be the shortest lesson, turning out to be the longest. So that's why I didn't even say anything. So, but here we are. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for tuning in and allowing me this space to share. Because I really enjoy the podcast for this purpose. So I can it's kind of like my own reflection while also being able to share it with other people. So that's fun for me. Hope it was good for you. And I will see you again very, very soon. Have an amazing day. Sun's out, guns out, motherfuckers. All right. The journey is the way. Peace.